Gotcha.
Good deal. We are now joined by Kevin Harvick. I know we're going to have a lot of questions for Kevin over the course of the next half hour. So if you do have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We're going to go straight to questions. And our first question will be from Bob Pockris. Go ahead with the question, Bob.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. In talking to some drivers who were racing in 2001, they told me that they thought they were looking at what your car was doing, what RCR was doing to kind of lead the way as far as changes when it came to safety. And I'm curious if you got that impression and felt any extra responsibility.
I did not. I think as I look back to 2001, it was really NASCAR that kind of took the bull by the horns and really led that charge. I think for us, and especially our team, I would venture to say it was the exact opposite. A little bit of confusion and not really understanding exactly where we needed to be, what was right, what was wrong. There was so much change during that particular time period. It was hard to keep up with a lot of things. I know, one of the first things to come out was the Hutchins device, which obviously came within our organization. But, I think as you look at the sport in general, that's really something that has continued through today. As we sit here today, has been a charge that was 100% led by NASCAR, and all the things that they changed with the racetracks and the mandates that were put, into place through the years to where we are today. So, that's been, a huge effort, from their part, and huge undertaking. But, I think that day, things changed forever. And, I think I would give all that credit to NASCAR. I think that, the teams have been part of that innovation, but there's also been a lot of safety companies, that have put so much time and effort into making their products better. You look around the world and you look at all the, the innovation and things that have changed through the years. It's been pretty dramatic from what we raced on that particular day.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Heather Williams. Go ahead with your question, Heather.
Hey, Kevin. I know you and Lynn have kind of been documenting Keelan's racing exploits on social media, showing pictures of his wins and stuff. What's that whole process been like for you, kind of sharing that dad-son bond of racing with him?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question. Look, I think for me, this would have all never started if it wasn't for COVID. We were really kind of setting our plans of the things that we wanted to do and where we wanted to go and how we wanted to spend time with our kids. And, he had really not shown a lot of interest in going to the racetrack. And, when COVID started, the iRacing stuff started, we were not really in school. Everything was kind of virtual, once it started back. And, he looked over one day while we were sitting on our iRacing simulators and he said, why aren't we racing? I'm like, well, you've never asked. So we started going to the racetrack some more and getting prepared for, the first club race at GoPro when they finally opened up, and ran the first club race, and he qualified on the pole for the first club race. And really the rest has kind of been history. Not even a year really, since that particular point. So, it's really the first thing that he's shown that amount of interest in, that he actually wants to practice. First of all, everything else he didn't want to practice. But, I think for us, it really kind of changed the way that we lived, the way that we did things along with COVID, and really changed, a number of things in our lives and in the way that we went about things. So for the, the relationship part of it has been really good for us as a family. It's been really good for Keelan and I. It's also very challenging, to be the teacher and try to basically build a race team. I mean, you have to race, at the level that he's going to race at. You have to treat it like it's an actual race team, because it is. And, so I think there's a number of things that have happened with, our personal relationship, that bond getting stronger, that driver mentor relationship, trying to find that balance as being dad as well was, and still is, challenging. But, look, if it's something that he wants to do, I'm going to push him hard, to do the things that he wants to do. He still has to have fun, but if you want to be good at it, you have to, have your boundaries pushed on a daily basis. And I feel like I do that. So it's, it's also been really good for me to understand and remember why I love racing, and going to the racetrack and seeing all the things and the challenges that come with not only teaching him, but, putting the vehicles together. And it reminds me a lot of the things that we've done at KHI in the past. And I remember why I like those things, because it's a different way of competing. And I love to compete. So, I think from that standpoint, I now remember why, I loved going into that shop every day and talking to the people and understanding what was going on. So it's just, from an all around racing aspect of it, it's reminded me of why I love so many aspects of the sport. And from a family standpoint and a father-son relationship, it's made us stronger, from both ends.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Mark Garrow. Go ahead with your question, Mark.
Thank you. Good morning, Kevin. Hope you had a good off season. It looks like you've certainly been busy. That's for sure. Coming up on the 20th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt's death in the 500 brings me back to memories of a little bit beyond that, when you got your first win, which we're coming up on the kind of the 20th anniversary of that. What can you remember about that? I called the finish, so I don't think I'll ever forget it. But what do you remember about that race, and just kind of remember about the last lap or two and what was going on?
Yeah, well, there's a number of things that I don't remember. There's a few things that I vividly remember about, everything that went on that particular day. The first thing that I remember was the five of us, racing, there at the end, and then it kind of dwindled down. And I remember some just random things. I think as I look back at that race, I kind of caught myself wandering with a couple laps to go, because it was hard not to notice the people hanging on the fence on the back straightaway, or right next to the fence on the back straightaway. And really it's those moments that I remember, that how loud the crowd was after I did my burnout and driving around that racetrack backwards. And, that's really about it. The rest of it is a little bit confusing as to what you remember, what you don't remember. It was obviously a moment that I don't think any of us expected, weren't supposed to be in. But there's a number of things that obviously changed, in the weeks before that, and continued to change. So, for us, that was supposed to be my first race in the Cup Series with America Online as our sponsor, with my Busch Series team at the time, going up together, and obviously everything changed on that side, after the Daytona 500. So, it took me a long time to really, get comfortable to really even think about things that happened that day. There were so many things that happened backwards in my career. I look at my very first Cup Series press conference, and that'll be the biggest press conference with the most notoriety, or anything that ever comes from a moment like that, or a moment in general, because of a moment like that. That's your first experience will always be your biggest one, from my standpoint. So, then you look at the first win, and, you'll probably never receive or get that type of notoriety or attention or anything that came with that. And I was, for a number of years, just, uncomfortable with all of that, because it was so overwhelming in the beginning, and really turned defensive in a lot of different ways, because I just, wasn't anticipating any of that, and understanding the magnitude of all those things that came with driving the car first, then winning in the car. And, a lot of that didn't really come into play and take effect until 2002, when he had to start making decisions. And then, by that particular point, he'd made some people mad, and had to start changing things. And then people didn't like it, and it wasn't their same situation, and wasn't my same situation. So there was just a number of things that changed through 2002. But I raced so much in 2001, that it just covered a lot of that stuff up, because I didn't have time to prepare or stop and think about it. So it was, there was just a number of things that were extremely overwhelming, with that whole scenario.
And my other question is, Kevin, how do you follow up on a season like you had a year ago? That's a pretty tough act to follow.
Yeah, I think the expectation is to go out and be competitive. I think as you look at last year, that's one of those that you check off as a career year, and you obviously want to do that again. But I've been around this long enough to understand that those types of seasons don't come around all the time. But look, it's not to say that it's not possible, because that's surely the goal. To try to repeat that and do that again. So the expectations are obviously the same as they were every other year. I think as you look back, you capitalized on the days you were good. You capitalized on some days when people had trouble, and we ran well at the racetracks we were supposed to run well at, and made good days out of them. So it was definitely a great year. I think as we go into this year, the expectations are to be competitive and try to put yourself in position to win races again. And this is something that we do every year. And last year we were just fortunate to put ourselves in victory lane a few more times than we had in the past. So they're not all going to go like that, but that's the goal.
Thank you. Good luck on the season.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Jordan Bianchi. Go ahead with the question, Jordan.
Hi, Kevin. Kevin, how much interaction have you had with Ben Kennedy in your dealings with NASCAR? What is your impressions of kind of the role he serves in NASCAR and kind of his role maybe going forward in leading NASCAR?
Yeah, I really haven't had hardly any interaction with Ben. Don't really know him that well, so I probably am not the right one to speak on that particular person.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Michael Knight. Go ahead with the question, Michael.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning, Kevin. Two NASCAR trends related questions, please. Brad and Joey are going into their 9th season together at Penske. The way the drivers have cycled through at SHR, you really have not had that kind of long-term, continuous, successful relationship with a teammate. Is that really as important for success as fans and media seem to think it is? It certainly hasn't seemed to hurt you any.
Yeah, I don't know that it's completely important. I think that the most important thing is to have other competitive cars. I think that's really what pushes the race teams to get better at a more rapid pace and cover more details. Is the fact that it's a fact that when you have more competitive cars, you can make things happen faster, and it's just better for the company in general. So I think no matter who's driving the cars, you want those cars to be as competitive as possible, because it helps you as a teammate and as a crew chief or whatever the situation is. You need somebody to be able to bounce ideas off of. You need other cars to run well in order to try different things and keep your mind open to to different things as well. So there are a number of benefits to having as many cars as possible running well in order to make yourself better and make the company better at a more rapid pace.
And the second question, after Jeff first came into NASCAR and then Tony after him, the search for the next great driver seemed to focus on midget sprint car, USAC, et cetera. And then, perhaps one demarcation part was J.J. Yaley came in under that idea, never really had the success that others did. Is the pendulum, even though Chase Briscoe has some of that background, has the pendulum in NASCAR swung away from that sort of Jeff or J.J. Yaley career model to more late models, ARCA, Xfinity, et cetera?
I don't think so. And I think over the next couple of weeks, you'll have a very firm understanding of where my mindset is as far as driver development and what that path needs to be. As I look at that, and we've been working on a number of things, in that category to try to put ourselves in position 10 years down the road from a KHI management standpoint, and be associated, with what we think is the next generation of drivers. I think as you look at, I think you're going to have to be very versatile. I think our sport is going to continue to change. I think you're going to have to be an extraordinary road racer as you go into the next 5 years, just because of what you're seeing this year and the opportunities of where you can race and the different racetracks and things that we can go to. Obviously when you look at Bristol Dirt, it's not going to be a late model dirt race or a midget dirt race, but having those backgrounds is going to be important. I think when you look at a just a straight up asphalt oval late model racer, I don't know that that's going to be 100% where you need to be. I think you definitely have to have that background, but I think being versatile and having that car control, that is taught from a midget sprint car standpoint. You look at road racing and whether it's you can just get so many opportunities in so many different forms of racing at such a young age. I think it's very important as you go forward to really consider how much time you spend on one craft, in trying to put yourself into being just a good oval racer is not going to work. As you go forward, you're going to have to be a good oval racer, but you're also going to have to be a very good road racer, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Our next question is going to come from Kelly Crandall. Go ahead with the question, Kelly.
Thanks, Matt. Hey, Kevin, I have two, kind of continuing on that thought process there about road courses. Rodney made the comment recently that he thinks your team, the four teams, kind of lost their stride maybe the last couple of years at road courses. So just kind of evaluate where you guys are, considering now there's going to be 7 on the schedule this year, 6 of them in the regular season.
I'll tell you in a few days.
The second thing I wanted to ask is you've made the comment in the past that one of the things you believe you and your team do well is just closing the door on one race and moving on and not getting caught up in things. So given an early exit last year in the playoffs or not making the championship, I don't know how much time you're able to spend with the team given COVID, but do you think it's the same? Everybody's already turned the page, ready to go into this year. No worries on getting hung up on how last year ended?
If they haven't, I don't want to talk about it. So, I think as the season ended and we got about a week through it, I was done and over with it and had, a lot to do moving forward. So, there's just in this business, you just don't have time to dwell on it. If you're going to continue to be good at what you do, you have to be able to put your mind back to work and take the things that went wrong and make them better. Refocus, and you have to use those things as motivation in order to make those particular things better. And I think I think those guys know that I feel like I'm wasting my breath, talking about everything that happened last year, because we've talked about what went wrong and I've moved on and ready and tried to be ready for this particular season to do the things that you need to do in order to get the season started right and be competitive on a week-to-week basis. So they know that I'll get pretty frustrated if they want to sit and dwell on what happened last year when we're already into just over a week away from the Daytona 500. So they better have moved on. If they haven't, they don't talk to me about it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Our next question is going to come from Lee Spencer. Go ahead with your question, Lee.
Thank you. And thank you, Kevin, for joining us. Wanted to ask you, you mentioned Bristol Dirt. You're the last guy to win at Bristol. What are your expectations going into this deal? And are you spending any time on dirt? Other drivers have, gone and done dirt things. I know your background was asphalt before coming to NASCAR, but is there anything you're doing to prepare?
Not at this particular point. I think it's in the end, it's one race. So, I think, a lot of what we have done is prepare for, the majority of the schedule. I think as you look at Bristol Dirt, it's definitely, it's not like it's not going to be like racing a midget or a dirt late model. You're still going to, as Ken Schrader would put it, you're still going to drive a cup car. So, I think the things that happen and the things that go on are obviously going to be different. It's probably the all-time longest dirt race ever at 250 laps. So, we'll see what happens to the racetrack. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a learning experience for everybody. I've not driven any of these cars on dirt. So I think at that particular point, and I've told Rodney this, I think you lean on the guy that has the most experience, and he's our newest guy, and that's Chase Briscoe. He's obviously run and won on the dirt at Eldora, has a dirt background, and we're just gonna kind of take a back seat and follow the guidance from somebody who knows what they're doing and try to be a good student. So, I think as that weekend progresses and luckily we get some practice, and we have some plans of things that we're going to do as we get closer to the race. But for the most part, it's you can't get too far ahead of things and try to work on something that's only one race.
Has there been any reflection on having such a huge successful season and then not getting to the Final Four? Have you reflected on that, or do you just put it behind you and say the rules are what the rules are, and I'm looking at 2021?
Yeah, my focus is always on week to week winning races, and I think in the end, it didn't really matter. We ran terrible at Phoenix, so it's not like you were going to win the championship anyway. So it didn't really matter, as we got to Phoenix and with the way that we ran. So, I think you look back on it and like I said earlier, you take the things that you did at each one of those racetracks and you try to make them better, because that's really what it's all about, is how do I stay focused on a week to week basis? What did we do last year at this particular racetrack? What did we do good? What did we do bad? Show me the strengths, show me the weaknesses, show me where we beat them, show me where we were getting beat. And it's the same preparation over and over and over. And, the whole, championship layout is something that is what it is, but it changes zero in your preparation. It really doesn't change a thing. You go to the racetrack and, for me, I'm not going to go to the racetrack and points race. We're going to go to the racetrack and try to put ourselves in position to win the race. And then the second thing when you can't do that is to gain the most points that you can in that particular day, and you go home. So it's just not something that I overthink. It's not something that really gets me up or down, winning or losing. It doesn't really affect the way that I prepare on Monday. So we can finish dead last or we can finish first, and I'm going to do the exact same thing when it comes to Monday morning. So that part doesn't change for me.
Appreciate your time and look forward to see what you have coming up with Keelan.
Our next question will come from Alex Andreev. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Kevin, I've got two for you. My first one is on Earnhardt, kind of looping back to that. At what point in your career, if any, did you sort of feel like you started coming out of his shadow? And when you think about his legacy and his impact on NASCAR, where do you think he sort of had that biggest impact? Was it in terms of safety in the race cars? Was it just the sheer number of wins, or was it sort of like the marketing side, or maybe there's something else?
Yeah, I think when you look at the effect that in my opinion that Dale had on the sport, it was in a number of different ways. First off, Dale had a great relationship with NASCAR and could move the needle when things needed to be moved from a competitor standpoint. Like really no other driver has been able to do ever. Yeah, I think the impact that he has had after his death on the safety of the sport has been, something that's just far greater than would have happened with anybody else. And I think that impact will be probably his impact from the competitor standpoint that some of them at this particular day and age might not even realize the impact that he's had on the safety side of it. I think when you look back and he's just, he changed so many things about our sport in so many different ways, just because of A, the relationship with NASCAR, but B, he was just willing to do things differently and think outside the box, and got connected with the right people in different scenarios of what they did. And you look back and you look at the souvenir side of things, and I think, as he wrapped his arms around, a lot of the other drivers in the sport and created, a souvenir business that was obviously very large in the heyday of souvenir sales. So, he's changed the game on a number of different levels throughout the sport, and just having that demeanor and the way that he went about giving it everything that he had to do whatever he had to do to try to win a race or gain a position was just something that the fans always latched onto and liked. And so there's just a number of things that he will have forever had his hand in and change, for a number of different reasons. As far as the shadow was obviously big, and it was something for me that I always did things, the way that I liked them, and always had kind of beat my own path as I went about things and made changes and drove the car and the things that you did. And for the first 4 or 5 years, it was difficult just because of the fact that everything that you did was always compared to everything that Dale did. It was always, it wouldn't have been handled this way, or it would have been handled this way. And this guy did that and that guy did this. And it was just, never something that was comfortable because, as I said earlier, it became defensive about, well, I'm just not doing it that way in anything. And, didn't want to do anything that was the same way just because I got tired of hearing it. So, as you got through the Goodwrench days, and they kind of gravitated off the car, and you had been in a position to win, a few races and start to get your own sponsors and really start to, to be able to have your own people around you. And that really, for me, made things more comfortable because of the fact that, you were living on your success and not, it wasn't something that was given to you, or a position that you were in that you didn't deserve. It was a position that you had earned, which was always the way that I felt like I wanted to go about things, was you needed to earn it in order to be where you were. So that's I feel like you totally got out from underneath all that, because it's still, we're 20 years later, and it's forever going to be compared just because of the fact of the way that everything went. But when I changed teams and went to Stewart-Haas Racing, it was really, I felt like that was in 2014 was really the year that you were able to legitimize everything that you had done and doing, just because you were, capable of driving the car and being around people and doing the things that it took to, to win races and win a championship. So it took a long time.
And then quickly, if I may too, this is unrelated, but Derek Cope's in the race. He's in his 60s in the 500 this year. Does age matter to success in NASCAR?
Well, I think that depends on how successful you are. I think as you go through this sport, you have to be committed to what you're doing. You have to have a great team around you. You have to have all the things in place in order to be successful and win races. And in the end, that's really what it comes down to. If you're not capable of winning races and being in a position to be competitive, it's just not as much fun. It really isn't. And I think for me, I love the sport and I love driving the car and I love being around the people and I love competing. But not being successful would definitely make it a lot more difficult, to go week to week and do the things that we do. So, I love the fact that I can show up with my group of guys. We can get to the racetrack and we can beat the group next to us, and, being able to go back to the shop and, today's world, you fist bump or elbow bump, and know that you showed up and beat those guys on a day when you shouldn't have beat them, or the day that you should have beat them. It doesn't matter. You want to be successful with that group of guys, because those are the guys that you're at battle with. And there's just something about that feeling that makes you want to go back and do it again. And there's no more satisfaction than winning a race and being able to know that you can wrap your arms around those guys and know that they're a part of that success, and you guys, we're all successful together.
Thank you.
Our final question will come from Kyle McFadden. Go ahead with your question, Kyle.
Hey, Kevin. How important do you see diversifying yourself at this stage in your career? You kind of touched on the importance of being diverse in this day and age. And then how important is it for Cup drivers like Chase Elliott and maybe yourself to dabble in grassroots racing to grow the brand of NASCAR?
I think as I look at the things that I've been able to experience, and as I talked about earlier, I look at the things that Denny Hamlin has done with the race team, and being able to push those buttons and build those buildings and build those cars and put those people together. That's something that as I've gone through last year with Keelan, I think I realized that I enjoy. I would thoroughly enjoy being in a situation like that as I go forward over the whether it's the next 5-10 years, whatever that is, and there's a number of things that I enjoy from that side of things that I'm not telling you that I want to own a race team. I'm telling you that I'd love to be involved in running one. I love the fact that I can still compete in the car, and that's the number one priority. Look, the TV stuff is obviously interesting as we move forward, but right now it's way more fun to be in that car and competing on a weekly basis to go out and try to accomplish something as a group, and be able to do that year after year is something that I think we all take pride in. So as far as competing at the grassroots level, I think you have to have something that you enjoy, and I think especially for somebody like Chase, who has obviously become a champion and knows that he's going to be around this sport for a long time, being able to race different things and be able to enjoy being inside of a race car, no matter what it is, where it is, or what type of surface it's on. I think being able to challenge himself, and that's really what I took from listening to the things that he said and did at the Chili Bowl. Just pushing yourself to do things that you normally wouldn't do, and not being embarrassed or beat yourself up over the fact that you didn't do well at it. I think as you go back and you have to get through that first experience of something that's new, and be over the fear and worry of not being successful, and then you can go back and be way better at it the next time and be more competitive, and just it's a constant learning curve, especially in a situation as the Chili Bowl was. In order to go there and be competitive is not easy. So to step outside of that box and know that you're going to go there and struggle, but you got to go there at some point to learn how to do that, is something that takes a lot of guts. And I think to see him do that, and see him just show up to the event and do what he did was fun for me to watch, and really understanding the type of courage that it takes to do something like that, because of the criticism and all the things and all the chatter around you that will come with that. It was pretty awesome to see. So I think it's important to be at the grassroots level in some way, shape, or form, as you go through your years of time on the Cup side.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and good luck next week in the Great American Race.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.